buddy. Noah Gardenswartz. If you don't know, we're glad to have you here. What
a smooth start that was.
No one's smoother than me. Well, we can edit anything we want if I want to.
True.
I mean, what do you think this is? Everyone gets so held up on making it. You don't have to make it perfect.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know if we were like really going right in. But
you got here and I said, "Hey, is there anything you want to talk about?" And you said, "No, you know how we do. Whatever's cool."
Well,
and I was like, "Wow!"
You're one of the few people that I've always just been incredibly comfortable with conversationally. You're a gifted conversationalist, so it just kind of flows when I'm around Jay Larson.
It wasn't even. It wasn't me. Literally, when I met you, we were working together in Atlanta.
Correct.
And you were like, I think you were like, did we get lunch?
Yeah, probably so.
You were like so endearing. You're like, you want to get lunch? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, yeah, let me take you by my house. I want to show you my house. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to go see your house. You were one of the first people I'm like, oh, if you want to hang with someone, you just put them in that situation. And then you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah. Well, I typically don't hang out with a lot of comedians outside of comedy other than the ones like I started with that I have a true friendship with, but you've always been a very naturally funny, endearing guy. I've enjoyed your company, so
people like me, you know what I mean? Yeah. In small doses. I can be a little much.
Speaking of small doses, a mushroom cup that's not, you don't get down like that.
I'm microdosing.
Are you really?
No. Oh. Fuck no.
Well, there's like this whole new Jay Larson that you're not drinking, right?
Not drinking.
So I figured maybe you threw in some microdosing with it.
I did used to do mushrooms, but not like never microdosing.
Are you talkative on shrooms? Like, do you try to be the life of the party?
No. If I'm doing shrooms, it's with like 1 to 2 people tops, and I want to be in nature.
You're going inward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a tough time. I can't be like, I look at mushrooms as like a religious experience.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I used to do shrooms all the time, and I like kind of stepped away from drug use in general.
When was this?
I cut back on the weed smoking probably 3 or 4 years ago. Where like I'll still smoke every now and again.
You mean when you started becoming successful?
Yeah, when I started having shit to do. I stopped doing drugs.
Started writing on an Emmy-nominated TV show.
No, it was
before that. Comedy Knockout.
Yeah, well, that was the Emmy nominated.
That was the Emmy nominated.
No, I mean, it was one of those things where, like, as I got older and the weed got stronger, it just stopped agreeing with me the same.
Yeah.
You know? And like, there was a while where I was, like, fighting it because it was such a strong part of my identity. I used to, for decades, I was an all-day, everyday weed guy. So it's like, this isn't right. I've got to fight through this. I'll smoke more and get more cousins.
I'll show this goddamn weed.
Yeah, and then finally I just had to be honest with myself. Like, this is no longer fun to me. Like, whereas it used to have no negative effects and only positive effects, now I was always anxious or paranoid or uncomfortable. Like,
same thing happened to me.
I would smoke and need to stretch for 30 minutes just to, like, kind of bring it all down.
I've never heard anyone say that.
Oh, that was the only good part about it. And so now, like, if it's been a really long week or something at the end of a night, I'll smoke a little bit with my wife because she still likes to smoke. But
how old are you?
I'm 35.
Trying to think when.
It was around 31, 32 that weed stopped being as fun to me as it used to be, and then it just kind of phased out.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty close too, to be honest with you. It was like 33 or 34, but I had already been like tailed back from like when I used to smoke all the time. Like I used to wait tables high.
Oh, yeah.
Which is crazy. I have no idea how I did that.
No, I could see that actually being great. Like, you probably got good tips and you can be kind of loose.
Yeah, but like now I think about it, I'm like, nope, I can't. I don't want to be high out in public. You know what I mean?
But like I used to, weed was really nothing.
And the whole country is, by the way.
I never did and still don't consider weed a drug. It's like, fine, weed is separate from, I went through a shroom phase where I probably did shrooms 20 or 30 times in a year and a half span where I would casually take shrooms if I just looked on the calendar and had nothing to do that day. Like, yeah, maybe I'll eat and eat the shrooms and go walk around New York and just see what happens. And now my body has just kind of moved past all of that. The drugs just don't agree with me the way they used to.
Yeah.
Now it's like a whole ordeal that can send me into a tailspin. And so I just...
Well, since giving up the booze, I look at mushrooms and I'm like, I don't think I could ever do mushrooms again. I don't know what I wouldn't know who I was.
Yeah, well, I think I'm scared to find out who I am according to the shrooms now that my life has taken a more serious turn.
According to the shrooms.
Yeah, well, the shrooms will let you know.
That was a
something
great autobiography, by the way. According to the shrooms, yeah. Well, dude, even now that I have kids, I'm like, so what if I went somewhere to do shrooms and then like you get the call that like, oh, something happened, and you're just like, what? I don't know. I mean, that's people being like, well, you still got to live your life. I'm just like, especially since I gave up the booze. I went away for a weekend with friends, and everybody was like the edibles and weed that was there was like
nonstop.
It was immense, you know, and it's all legal. And then we had a ton of booze that I brought up for everybody, but I didn't do any weed, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just like kind of like I love being so straight up that everything is just what it is. Like every experience that I'm feeling, like when things are awesome and things I'm just have way more clarity now. I'm like, oh, it just feels great because I love all the stuff around me, and I know that it's only coming from being alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not like pro sobriety in that. Like, I think this is the better.
When did I say I was pro sobriety, dude? I'm not sobriety. I'm not sobrietal.
You're so awake now to the world around you.
You know I'm woke, bro.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. So let's also tell people where they can find you, because there's Noah said, hey, I got an album coming out. I'm like, all right, how good could it be?
Thank you. You're so generous with your platform. I appreciate you letting me come.
I also think it's like we met when I was recording my album. So you were there for every taping.
So pay it forward. I set you up for success, man. I was warming those crowds up like crazy for you.
I mean, warming them down, son.
No.
You gave me a place to rise out.
Hey, have you ever seen someone get an alley-oop and they just refuse to fucking dunk the ball? I was just lobbing it right in front of the rim, and Jay couldn't get it. No, it was a great album.
I do remember, though. You were like, I'd be listening to you because that's when we first met. I'm like, Jesus, this guy is just a straight up joke writer. That's like when I knew you were a really strong writer, because you craft jokes. You know what I mean? You're a guy. There's very few comics that don't do much on stage and get huge response. And you're one of those guys because it's well crafted jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I can very rarely do what you do. Like, I'm 12, 13 years into comedy. I'm very comfortable on stage, and now I can do crowd work, I can riff, but like you and I have completely opposite styles. Like, I feel like you do a lot of crowd work in the moment or kind of right on stage.
Yeah.
I can almost never take what feels like a funny idea and go right on stage and be like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what I stumble into. I need to know where I'm going with the joke and what I'm saying. And because of that, I feel like I don't have to do a lot of moving and all that.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a little bit of a dig, but whatever. Wait, so let's Instagram, Twitter.
At Noah G Comedy on Instagram and Twitter, and NoahGComedy.com.
Perfect.
For the website.
Yeah.
Trying to cut back on social a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Horrible timing, right as I'm releasing an album. Bad decision, but
I've cut back completely. Basically, Instagram is like the only one I use.
And you're doing a lot of. It's like the new trend in stand-up now, posting the videos with the captions and you. Yeah,
I'm just like, I have all this content, and I don't do the road as much as people would like me to do. And I'm like, well, if you found me because of the podcast, or if you found me because of the wrong number joke, or you found me, here's other stuff that I've done, because it's not like anyone saw my half hour. Only hardcore fans have, you know?
Oh, I know about that. Wait, so are you doing it more as a content dump for fans you already have that, like, this is what you may have missed, or are you trying to branch out to a new?
Both. I want to give it to like people who follow me, and at the same time I want to like get other people to be like, yo, if you don't know me, this is stuff that I do, so that when I continue to do stuff, they can see it. It's not like, excuse me, I just have it. So I'm like, why am I not sharing it? Like, dude, my whole perspective on stand-up changed watching Eddie Murphy's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Have you seen it?
No, I've heard about it.
He just said one thing that I'm like, holy shit, yeah, that's my whole stance on stand-up.
What was his mic drop? What was it?
He goes, I would do stand-up for free. And I was like, well, I mean, after he signed like a $70 million deal.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
But like, I said to Kate, I'm like, that's exactly how I've always felt that way about stand-up. Like, I never looked at stand-up as like, how can I get money out of stand-up? I always looked at it like, oh, I like getting on stage. And I don't know if it's like...
But if you weren't successful at stand-up, would you do stand-up for free if you had a full-time job elsewhere and you were still open micing? Like, is it about the joy of just getting on stage and sharing your ideas with a room full of strangers? Or
I mean,
Like, is it easier to say I would do stand-up for free when you no longer have to do stand-up for free?
dude, I did stand-up for free for so long, and I continue to just do spots in town all the time, which are essentially for free. I just like doing it, and I like crafting my jokes. Like, put it this way, like, if my full-time job was stand-up, you know, where I was putting out an hour special every 2 years, and I just feel like it would be... there'd be too much pressure on the idea of stand-up, you know, and then it wouldn't... I like to live my life to then do stand-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All my jokes come from things I experience, but I don't want to put pressure on my life to make it be the thing that funds my stand-up.
You have a much healthier work-life balance than most stand-ups as well, in terms of like actually being a present father and family man. That seems to be the focus of your day-to-day.
True. Maybe. It is definitely a focus, but I would also like to like... If it was writing and acting and producing was the thing that was funding my life, I would be like,
fuck these kids.
Yeah, I'm out.
I gave you Splinter Alley. Go
Fucking figure something else out. No, but I would still like, do stand up without worrying about like how much money it's going to bring me, you know? Yeah. But you just did this album, which is, I think is this your first album?
Second, Jay. Thank you.
Second.
I'm so prolific. Second album. No. Yes, this is the second album I did. I titled it White Man Can't Joke.
That's right.
Literally just because I was just looking for a clever title and like a fun cover art, and my second favorite movie is White Man Can't Jump. So it was one
What's
of those
your first favorite?
Coming to America.
Oh, okay.
Strong. It's a strong one too. Coming to America,
it's great,
White Man Can't
man.
Jump. But it was one of those where I was literally like taking a walk, and the idea just hit me. Like as soon as I played around with the wording, I was like, oh, I can see the cover art right there. I'll dress up as Billy Hoyle, and boom, album's done. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's a really good album. I love the title and I love the cover art, but I was also like, after we went through with it, I had that moment of like, oh, in these politically charged times, are people going to think I'm one of those like men's rights activists, crusaders, like, oh, white guys can't even say anything
Oh
anymore,
my
you know?
God, that's...
Luckily, everyone has gotten the joke and has just gone with like, I get it, you're spoofing the movie and it's a clever title, fun cover art, but I'm sure people who don't know me or some form of Googling is going to be like, Noah Gardenswartz, White Man Can't Joke, and have the wrong impression of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, but all they need to find out is you write on The Marvelous Miss Maisel and be like, oh, clearly that's not the angle he's playing. Right. Where'd you record it?
I recorded in like right outside Detroit at the Comedy Castle.
Oh,
Mark
nice.
Ridley's Comedy Castle, which was kind of fortuitous because I was originally scheduled to record it somewhere else. I don't want to say the name, but I had it scheduled to record somewhere, and a few comics who had played the room were like, it's a great club, horrible place to record because it's huge, cement floors, and I'm not a draw.
Yeah,
you know, and so
not even close.
Not even close. So I needed a place that would like bring in a crowd, regardless of who was performing there.
Sure.
And so once I found out it wasn't necessarily ideal, we looked on the calendar that I had. I was supposed to record June 1st. And this was like very beginning of April when comedians were like, you probably don't want to record there. And on my calendar was Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And a few people were like, oh, yeah, it's a great room. They pack it out regardless. I would record there. And so we just kind of rolled the dice. And we're like, fuck it. Worst case scenario, it doesn't go well and we'll find somewhere else. But I went and had a fantastic weekend. So shout out to Mark Ridley and the Comedy Castle.
That's great. I always wanted to go there. As a matter of fact, I did when I did Montreal in 2005, someone came up to me and they're like, dude, Mark Ridley was losing it during your set. Like, you got to have your agents follow up. And they did. And I've still never done the room.
Yeah, apparently someone gave you bad intel.
That was 14 years ago. So I've heard really good things. Dude, there's not a club in Michigan that I don't like. You ever done Ann Arbor?
No.
Oh, it's awesome.
No, my first experience with Michigan was doing like that string of poor paying one-nighters along like upper Michigan, like Canada, Michigan.
The UPE?
Yeah. Still a lot of fun.
I've never done it. I only lived in New York for like a year and a half. That's like a New York thing, right?
Yeah, I think it was a Yoda run.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But
Grand Rapids, bro.
Yeah, when does this are we live right now? Or
2 days, bro.
2 days, okay.
Because the album comes out when?
Album comes out Friday. I'm doing Corden tomorrow, which will be yesterday by the time this comes out.
Oh.
Isn't time crazy? Let me take some shroom tea.
Don't fucking touch that.
Tomorrow's yesterday, man.
Dude, everything's
Check out
everything,
the set.
son.
Yeah, so
So Corden's
Those are
tomorrow
the only
night.
2 things I'm doing to promote the album. Corden and Jay Larson's Thruline. How do you like that?
Do yourself a favor. I mean, how much is the album? $10?
$9.99, not even 10.
Not even $10. Get the damn album because it's going to be great.
Available on all the platforms. You know what? Honestly, I would say buy it, but if you want to stream it on Spotify for free, I'm not going to be mad at you. Just listen to the jokes. I make art for the people.
What you should do is go write a review.
There it is.
If you're going to not buy it because you think $10 is too much for...
At least write a review.
Just go write a review because that's going to help. Is it clean?
No.
Is it dirty?
No, it's not dirty. It's my comedy in general. Like it's definitely not put it in the car with your 9-year-old kid and just ride on worry free.
I mean, it depends on how you roll it home, though.
Yeah, no, but I'm I'm not out there trying to offend or like I don't have shock value jokes, but it's definitely not clean. There's sex talk, drug talk, and curse words laid in throughout, but it's not like vulgar.
Yeah.
I would say it's a solid low grade R, high grade PG-13.
Low grade. So it's like a Coming to America.
Exactly.
Do you know my Coming to America story?
No.
8th grade. I don't know. In 8th grade, we had a substitute teacher, Mr. Bacigalupo.
That's a great name.
Yep. And so he...
Oh, hold on. To be a substitute teacher with the name Bacigalupo?
Bacigalupo,
How thick was that guy's skin? I mean, he's heard it all. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he had. He was solid. Super nice guy. But 8th grade, and it was science class. So you remember those like black desks that went all the way across, like the science tables?
Yep.
I was in the back, and this kid who I went to school with, Rahman Khan,
so many good names in this story. I'm into it.
He brought me Coming to America, and we were going to watch a video that day in class. So while he was taking attendance, I crawled under all the desks up to like the TV, took out the video, put in Coming to America, and then went back. So he came over, pressed play, and it opens with the royal penis is clean, sir.
Bacigalupo's got Bunsen burners on the brain, and
you know
and
what I'm
comes
saying?
Eddie getting blown by the bathers. Gotta love it.
So this is the kind of things you can expect from White Man Can't Joke, you guys. And
a little bit of it.
He sent me to the principal office like I host.
Did he really?
Yeah. Nudity, bro.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. There were some titties.
I mean, yeah. But I was like, legend.
Nowadays, that would be a Free the Nipple campaign. Oh, you were legend for slipping the Coming to America?
Yeah, you kidding me? He puts it in, take and roll. He thinks it's no big deal. All of a sudden that comes on, and I snuck that thing. It's crush fest.
Science was that was the one subject I always struggled with in school.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a smart guy. Always did well. English, math, history, no problem. Science, struggled like hell.
Even though math and science kind of go hand in hand?
Yeah, because it wasn't fit like biology, chemistry. I mean, I guess there's some good math and chemistry, but it just, science never clicked in my brain. And I'm interested in it, too. I wish I was better at science because I like it.
I wonder why that is, because there's no definitives in science almost.
Yeah.
That's when math fucking fell out for me, was when numbers weren't exact, you know?
But also, I was like at the height of my degeneracy in high school. So it's like that's when I was just high nonstop. And
how are you getting high in high school? Where was this? This wasn't Denver.
Denver.
It was Denver, but
Colorado.
You had two
Denver
upbringings, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean?
Didn't you have
religious Jewish upbringing and then regular upbringing? Or?
No, because I always look at you as like a hardcore Jew.
Yeah.
You're very committed to Judaism.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud to be culturally Jewish. I still practice religion much more than most like passive Jews in America who just kind of happen to be Jewish, but I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm very committed to Jewish living in my everyday life.
Right, okay.
Like I don't go to synagogue regularly or anything.
Right. But you go to like Seders and you go to like
okay.
You know what I mean? Like as a guy who's like blazing weed every day in high school, you're still a guy like who's participating in their religion. And
yeah, I would say I would get high as shit and then eat a kosher variety of munchies.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you still kosher?
Yeah.
Have you always been kosher?
Well, I grew up in a kosher home, but like high school, no. I mean, as a kid, I used to break it all the time. Like I used to, as soon as I had my bike and was old enough to ride to Taco Bell or Burger King, it was Cheeseburger City, baby.
Really?
Oh, I couldn't get enough of it. Yeah, I used to love unkosher fast food. That was my jam.
Well, I mean,
it was the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, well, I mean
but
that's probably
I'm
why.
I'm allergic to shellfish.
Okay.
So I've never been able to enjoy that. But like now,
but isn't that anyway? You couldn't.
Right. But I don't eat pork by choice.
Because of religion or because... Okay, yeah. But red meat you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've never had bacon, or you did?
I've had bacon.
Oh, okay.
There were years when I exclusively ate bacon and pepperoni. No, but it was like it was one of those. As a kid, I didn't care at all. It wasn't until I was an adult that I made the choice for myself, where I just kind of stopped eating pork. But yeah, like all growing up, as long as my parents weren't around, I couldn't get enough of unkosher food.
Interesting. So you just got married, and Esther's Jewish.
Yeah, it was a very Jewish wedding.
If you think cool? Esther Steinberg is a Jew.
Well, now she is Esther Steinberg Gardenswartz.
I mean,
not hyphenated. She just replaced her middle name with Steinberg. And this is how committed she is to comedy. She only did it because she thinks it's a funny name.
My God.
Which it is. Yeah. Esther Steinberg Gardenswartz. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wedding was awesome because we had basically an Orthodox Jewish wedding with, outside of our families, a mostly black and gay friendship group. Like most of the non-Jews that were there just from our lives were black or gay non-Jews. And so it was like a really cool merging of all the different cultures, because Jews were happy to have a different group of people, like to have some diversity in the synagogue and really have like some fresh blood and excitement. And all the non-Jews were really leaning into the cultural stuff that was foreign to them. They were like fascinated in a nice way and really participated, and it was great.
Well, Jewish weddings, I've never been to a full Jewish wedding. You know what I mean?
40-minute horror.
Really?
40-minute horror. We brought
That's what you had?
Yeah. We brought in a guy specifically for the Jewish music, and then had a 9-piece Motown band for like the after dinner dancing music.
Oh man.
We had two. We had a Jewish dance set and then a regular wedding party dance set.
You guys change outfits?
No, and I should have. I brought 3 shirts and could have worn all 3, but after the horror, I was so soaked that I was just like, fuck it, this is the shirt for the night. I'm not changing out. I'm just gonna, this is what it is.
I see. I love this. I didn't grow up. I knew one Jewish kid growing up, Craig Stillman.
Oh, I feel like with the names you gave me in your earlier story, I was hoping for something better than Craig
This
Stillman,
is how I didn't even know Jewish names as a kid, that I went to high school with Lynn Felstein, and I thought she was Italian. Because she was like dark skinned.
So ridiculously stupid.
She lived in like the Italian neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Italian and Jewish, it's like right there.
It is, but it's not.
But,
you know what I mean?
But yeah, I hate to break to you, Lynn Felstein, and not an Italian.
No, but I never knew anything about Jewish culture. It wasn't until I moved to LA.
Because you're from like suburban Massachusetts.
Yeah, and North Shore. You go the other way, then you have like Newton is a very Jewish population.
That's where my uncle, who's a rabbi who conducted our wedding, is from.
Dude, if I meet anyone from Massachusetts and they're Jewish, I'm like, oh, where are you? It's Newton. They're from that area. So I just wasn't around that culture and that religion at all. I went to one bar mitzvah, which was Craig's.
Yeah.
And so then I moved to LA and I met tons of friends that were Jewish. And then I remember being like, same thing. We're like 26, 27, drinking or smoking day afternoon. Like, what are you up to tonight? It's like, it's Friday. I'm going to a Seder. I'm like, what's a Seder? It's like, I got invited. Like, people were getting invited and introduced to other people through religion because they're so big about having community and family. Yeah. And I was like, oh, man,
Well, that's why I'm dressed like this. I don't normally dress like this. I was coming from a bris. One of my high school best friends had his 4th baby boy this morning, and so we went to the bris.
Very un-Jewish to have 4 kids. How was that?
It was great. Great networking event. Real Hollywood powerhouse.
Yeah?
No. I mean, yes and no.
This is the circumcision, right?
Yes, it was a circumcision. You know what's funny? And it happens everywhere, but the Moyle, the guy who cuts the baby's foreskin off, was murdering with jokes.
Really?
Like Moyles always have jokes, and it's a very specific kind of corny, I'm going to play to the room.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he uses these jokes every single week at every event. But he was fucking destroying. And Esther and I were the only comics in the room, and we were like, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like so jealous of the laughs he was getting. With little shit like, to start the circumcision, he opens the diaper, goes, it's a boy. And, just like cornball shit, but was getting the biggest laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't like, because so I have this guy, like anytime my iPhone screen breaks, there's this guy who has like this back house in West Hollywood, and he fixes phones and stuff like that. And he's a Jewish guy, always is wearing the yarmulke. Yarmulke.
Yeah.
There's another name for it, no?
Kippah.
Okay. So
Hebrew and Yiddish, but same word.
Okay.
You're talking about the same thing.
But that dude, when he knows I'm a comedian, and he'll start asking me these Jewish comics. He goes, do you know so-and-so and so-and-so? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, they go to my temple. And they do a circuit. They perform at synagogues.
Well, that's like, I don't do them as much, but before I like had a little bit of success in stand-up comedy, I would make my living doing the Jewish circuit. Like I was doing the Federations and Hillels, and I have a whole separate Jewish hour of comedy, and they are the absolute best and worst gigs. Because like I love being around older Jews because they're just funny to me, like intrinsically. But they are a fucking pain in the ass to perform around because they all think they have better jokes than you. Like every old Jewish man just has 50 street jokes in his back pocket that he can't wait to tell you.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was going to say is they also like, I know dudes that like punch up for rabbis.
Yeah.
Rabbis like hire comics to write for them.
Yeah,
right?
well, the high holidays, that's like the Super Bowl of Judaism. You got to come with it. You got 1,000 congregants waiting for the. But that's what I'm saying is like Moyles, rabbis, they fucking murder with the jokes.
But it's like a part of your culture, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jews pride themselves on being funny, trying to be funny. Certainly have a sense of humor.
Yeah. Do you feel different since you've been married?
Well, in the 9 days that I've been married, I feel like I twist my ring and give advice a lot more. I just talk to my unmarried friends like, listen, here's what you got to do. But no, I mean, I feel Esther is still on cloud nine and riding the high. Like I can feel a sense of comfort and like a weight off her shoulders in terms of knowing that we are now for sure married and it's not going to backfire. Like even during the year of engagement, there's always that thought in the back of your head, like, are we really going to get married? When's the shoe going to drop where this isn't going to be real? So now like the sense of comfort,
you guys are also living apart from each other,
right? For a while. I mean, we had
what's
an
that
abnormal
like?
Story. So
I've never,
but like. Marriage itself doesn't feel any different because we've basically been living together from the moment we met. Like we started dating and 2 weeks later we were living together.
Yeah, that sounds like Esther.
Yeah. And so like our day-to-day life hasn't changed at all, but there does just feel like a sense of comfort that marriage has brought her mentally that has made me happier and easier in general.
What about the open relationship? Is that still in play?
No, we are not. No. Once we got engaged, we closed it off. But yeah, so
wait, did you guys actually have an open relationship? I mean, we don't have to get into details.
No, I mean, I don't mind talking about it at all because it's pretty interesting.
How long did you guys go open relationship?
We were open for a little less than a year, like maybe 8 months, because we were long distance for a year.
Yeah.
And for the first 4 months, I was pushing an open relationship, and she didn't want to do it. And then finally, she acquiesced to it, and we tried it, and it was actually me who didn't like it. And then we ended it, and it was like once we agreed to stop the open relationship, we were engaged 2 weeks later because it was just kind of like either we're going to break up or get back together. And if we're going to get back together after 3 years and having been through what we've been through,
how do you broach? You guys have to have a really strong bond to be like, yo, you know what I've been thinking? I've been thinking about seeing other chicks.
Well, it was.
And how long had you been together?
It was not that easy. It was. She was not happy about it, obviously. But it was. So what it was, we had been together.
Because I know a couple dudes that she fooled around with during that time, and they said she was real happy, baby.
Wow, really, Jay? That's what we're doing. No, it was. We had been together for a year and a half, 2 years, and I was in New York working on Maisel, so like I couldn't even. I like New York. I wasn't thinking about coming to LA anyway, but even if I wanted to, I couldn't because my job was in New York.
Yeah, well, you have a great job.
Yeah,
you know?
And she had moved to New York for me. Like she was doing well in LA, and then moved to New York for me, and that kind of took a hit on her career. Like she sacrificed to be with me, and things slowed down for her right as things were picking up for me. So. She was always very supportive of my career and great about that, but like was noticeably not that happy in New York. And so I supported her moving back to LA to get her career back on track, and we didn't want to break up, but I also had to be honest with her about the fact that like I've done long distance before, and doing long distance with no end in sight, like if you're really moving back to LA and if things happen for you and you're just going to be there, then maybe we need to try to open things up a little bit, because I don't want to cheat on you. I also don't want to break up, but I can't be in a monogamous long distance relationship with no end in sight. Yeah. And so she basically,
I hope everyone's taking notes out there.
She basically agreed to give it a shot, but was heartbroken. Like it wasn't like, fine, let's do it. She, I was dealing with a woman who was crying for hours next to me, very upset because the man she loved basically told her he needs to fuck other women if they're going to be apart. And
which isn't what you were really saying, but that's what she was hearing.
It wasn't what I was saying, but it also was not what I was saying. Right. Because like the reason I wanted to be in an open relationship wasn't so I had like someone to go to dinner with and company. It was like, I needed to get laid while she's in LA.
Which is what she needed with those two dudes that I know of.
If
you know, I mean, of the people, I don't know how many there were total.
See, the thing is, you and I have this rapport where I know you're joking, but they don't know you're joking. And now that, look at you, fucking scumbag.
What do you think they think?
And so the thing is, we approached it from completely different angles, and it was me who ended up really not liking the relationship or not liking the open relationship, but it had nothing to do with the sex involved because I started sleeping around with absolutely no emotional commitment. I was just like a single bachelor having fun again, and she found one person to spend a lot of time with, and that's what bothered me. Like when she told me that she slept with this guy, it didn't hurt nearly as bad as like when I would try to call her and couldn't get a hold of her because she was hanging out with this guy, you know? Because it was like,
dude, I literally just got like crazy anxiety.
That's what I'm saying. Because it was like when I proposed the open relationship, I wasn't naive enough. Like I'm gonna go fuck all these chicks and she's just gonna sit at home. She loves me, you know. Like I knew she was gonna sleep with other people, and I would never ask Esther to do something that I wasn't willing to do on my end, you know. So I truly wasn't from like a male chauvinist point, like I could fuck whoever I want, you can't fuck anyone. I was like, by all means, if we're gonna be open, you should. But like, she is not into sleeping around. She like likes connection. So she's like, if I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna find someone that basically becomes boyfriend number 2, and you don't know how you're going to feel about something until it happens, you know? So, like, in my rational mind...
She put you in the G League, son.
I'm telling you.
Or the D League.
She put me on a 10-day contract.
She put you on a 10-day. She's like, listen, I don't know. I'm coming to New York when you're getting called up.
Because it was one of those things where, like, ideally, my rational mind was like, that's exactly what I want. I don't want my girl sleeping around. I would much rather you find one guy, as long as he treats you right and respects the situation, then that's perfect. And he did respect, like...
I can't even hear you say, listen, I just want someone who treats her right.
Well, no, because it's like... If you knew you were going to be in an open relationship with your girl, would you rather her sleeping around with random dudes or like find one guy that it's a safe situation? Like your rational mind would be like, I want her to find one partner to be safe with, and that's better than her just fucking whoever, whenever.
I've been married now 9 years. We've been together 13. And the idea of an open thing always seems like a fantasy world, but literally hearing you talk about it and then thinking and putting myself, I'm like, that sounds like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and it's like, now I know how like, first of all, even though we're 9 days in, we are happily married. I'm not interested in opening things back up again. But I do think if she and I approached it the same way, where it was strictly a sexual need, I wouldn't necessarily be averse to the idea of us having other partners over the course of a lifetime if it was truly like just sex. But because... she's unable to just have sex because there's some kind of emotional attachment that has to happen. I'm not interested in opening things back up again because I didn't realize until it happened, but that's what hurt. Like it wasn't about her sleeping around. It was about her finding someone else to confide in and spend time with.
Totally.
That I was like, this doesn't feel right.
So now is she living in New York with you again?
She's living in New York with me again. And we've kind of committed to the idea that when I need to be out there for Maisel, which is 8 months out of the year, we're in New York, and then in the off season we come out to LA for a few months, and that's just kind of the agreement we struck.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so now we're married, closed back up, and happily living bi-coastally. Yeah,
and she can come out here whenever if she needs to.
Yeah. So that's the situation, but it was rough for a while, and you know it was so crazy when we.
The worst is I've been in situations like when I like. Where you're like, I was in relationships and I'd be on the road and you'd have like a fight and like you go on the road and you're like, just being away is the worst.
Yeah,
time. And you got to go perform or you got to go write
the amount of times I had to like go on stage after we just had an argument over this open relationship, and it's not like when you're long distance open. That's even more difficult because it's not like you can have your disagreement and then ultimately look in each other's eyes or have sex or do anything like hold each other to make it feel right. We just had to sit in that discomfort 3,000 miles away, which made it difficult. But
it also made it easy because you had an open relationship, so you could go
find. Know what I'm saying? No, but what was interesting is at a certain point in time, we both were just like, it's obviously not working. So we actually did break up for like a week.
Yeah.
And in that week, we kind of forgot that my cousin, who she's also very close with, like she's very close with my family, we just completely forgot that she was getting married. And so like the week we finally broke up was a time when we had to be at a family function together for a wedding. And I gave her the out. I was like, listen, if you don't want to come, or if we're actually going to like let everyone know that we're broken up. And she was like, no, I'm close with Amy too. Like, it's not even about you. I want to be at the
She's
wedding.
like, I was going to call you and say the same thing to you.
Yeah. She was like, I'll tell your dad you're not coming. I'm going to that wedding. And in the week that she came to the wedding, we were like kind of broken up. That's when we finally seeing each other, is when we kind of fell back into like, what are we doing?
100%. Of course.
And
You're at a wedding. Of
right,
course.
Like once we were able to spend time with each other, that's when we kind of started phasing out the open relationship. We were like, all right, let's give each other a few more weeks to phase out of it. And then within a month, we had ended the open relationship. And then within 2 weeks of ending the open, we were engaged. And now we're married.
Who asked who?
Who asked who what?
To get married.
I asked. So, is that even
Well,
a
no
question?
one asked her. She probably...
Well, she picked out her ring before I asked, but yeah, it was one
She
of those
picked
things
it up
where
3
like,
years ago.
yeah, true, but no. As soon as we ended the open relationship, we knew we were gonna get engaged, and I knew what kind of ring she wanted, but I dropped down on one knee. You know what? I do regret. I could have had a very funny comedy proposal, because we were still long distance. Like, she was phasing out of LA. And she flew into Newark at 5 a.m. And I borrowed my sister's car to go pick her up at Newark. And there was part of me that wanted to propose in the Newark airport, just so she would have to say for the rest of her life that she got engaged at the Newark airport. But I had mercy on her. I took her back and proposed in New York.
That
across
day?
state lines, yeah.
You crossed state lines, then
It was
pulled
like,
over?
yeah, it was funny. It was 8 a.m. when we finally, like, by the time she landed, we got the bags, got back to New York, got to our place in Brooklyn. What I did the night before, I went and bought probably 150 roses. Like, the entire apartment was covered in roses and lit candles. And she walked in, and she knew we were going to get engaged, but she did not know I was going to propose then. I actually even told her this was middle of July, and because she knew I got the ring, because she had basically picked it out, I told her it wasn't going to be ready until the end of August. So she actually was completely surprised when I dropped down on one knee.
Yeah.
But because it was 8 a.m. and she had just come on a cross-country flight, it was like I proposed, we hugged, we kissed, and then both went to sleep for like 4 hours.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, what do you need to do? You know what, man? There's something super adult about the idea of like being in a relationship, testing it with a situation to see if you could do it because you care about the person, and then realizing it doesn't fit. You know what I mean? Better than
I mean, I feel confident in our ability to have a good marriage going forward, because we've tested the waters, and we've like, it's that whole cliche of you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. Like, we've been through that, and we decided to come back together, and now we hurt each other in the process. Like, there was pain and scars that need to heal on both sides. We both hurt each other, and now that we're healed, we're back better than ever.
And you do, I mean, you do at the end of the day have to ask yourself, does she still think about that guy? You know what I mean? Because he probably was very special. Just, I mean, I'm not saying I know him. It's just some of the other dudes.
I thought it was two.
Well,
does she think about them? Right?
I'm talking about those two
other
other guys.
That were telling you that she was so fun.
No, those are the two I'm talking about.
But then there was another.
Then there was a guy that she really fell for.
Yeah, well, you know, she at least does a good job of masking it if he's still on her mind.
Well, I'm not. That's
according to
that's
her.
the danger, though. I'm not saying.
According to my wife, who I now believe and trust very deeply, she is fully over him or them. And
I believe she is. I'm just saying there's a little. What's down in here? You know what I mean? What's tucked down in or down in there?
You never know.
You never know when it's going to come out, and that's the danger, and that's the risk of relationships.
That's the risk of life. You know, you never know.
And you guys are going to go to Italy on your honeymoon?
Smooth transition. Yeah, we're going to Italy. We're leaving next week.
Let me get because I know my friend told me he knew a guy who went to Italy, to Venice, and he was out with his wife celebrating in a bar, or just part of their honeymoon. And she's like, oh, I'm going to go home to the hotel. Why don't you stay out? And he's like, all right. And he was hanging out with these dudes. What, do you know the story?
No, I'm just waiting for you to tell me that like some Italian gondolier swept her off her feet.
Oh, no. Very different, actually.
Oh, okay.
She went back to the hotel. He went out to have cigarettes with these guys, and they beat him up and dumped him in a canal and robbed him.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I've heard Venice can get shady.
I don't smoke cigarettes.
Are you guys going to Venice?
Yeah.
Just be heads up, man. I've heard there's some shady. It's like we fantasize about foreign countries.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be something,
Yeah, I would like to think I'm street smart enough. I don't let my guard down like that. Like, first of all, yeah, on the honeymoon, I'm not going to tell my wife to go back to the hotel while I go out for cigarettes with a group of
Well, I mean, you
Venetians,
also,
but
you also let her just run around town. You know what I mean? Run around L.A. So
what is your deal? No, I think we'll be fine. I've been to Italy. She has not, but we're doing Rome, Florence, Venice, the Amalfi Coast, and then shooting over to Athens for 2 days because I couldn't be that close to Greece and not go. Greece is the one place I've always dreamed of going. I'm pretty well traveled. Never been to Greece. And Athens, since I was in grade school learning about Greek mythology and all that, has fascinated me.
And you want to see the sights. You don't want to just go
Yeah. No, we're not going to like Mykonos and any of that shit. We're going to Athens to see the Acropolis, the Parthenon, and then shooting back over to Italy.
So you say well traveled. When were you well traveled? Your family?
Yeah, I've actually been fortunate enough. My dad grew up really, really poor and didn't leave the state of Colorado until his mid-20s.
Wow.
And so it was one of those things where, like, he always in his mind was like, if I ever have a family of my own, have the means to do it, traveling was like a priority of what to spend his money on and what to do as a family. So, like...
And what age did you start at?
I mean... I was traveling as early as I can remember, like 5 or 6. Like domestically, we would travel inside the U.S. all the time. We would do road trips a lot. But I would say internationally, I started, like, I went to Israel. Mexico and Israel were probably the first foreign trips I remember when I was like 10 or 11.
Did you do Birthright?
I did Birthright.
Was that a separate trip or was that the trip?
Yeah, no, I had been to Israel probably 6 or 7 times before I went on Birthright, but I had never gone on like a youth trip the way like on Birthright it's supposed to be your first trip to Israel, or at least never have gone on like a teen tour with other organizations. I had only been to Israel with my family. So but yeah, I started traveling, like we started going on international trips probably in my teens, and then as an adult I've traveled a lot on my own as well. Like I told you, I used to do the Jewish circuit. There's this organization called JDC which like works with Jewish communities all over the world, and they let me travel with them for free to I think 6 or 7 different countries, and to pay them back I created a new Jewish hour about like all the countries I traveled to, and basically went and performed across America for free for them. Like I would do young adult nights and basically talk about the places they go.
Killer.
And so like with the JDC
propaganda.
Yeah, I was just like brainwashing the youth for free as long as
I
could travel.
See, this is the kind of thing I love about Jewish culture. Is like Birthright was another thing that one of my friends in LA did at like 27. Like you can go up until 27 or something.
Yeah, something like that. But what I will say, and it's actually important to point out for me, the JDC is apolitical, and like it prides itself on being apolitical. So it strictly is about providing relief to communities in distress across the world. Mm-hmm. And so like I really didn't.
What's JDC stand for?
Joint Distribution Committee.
Gotcha.
So you thought the J was Jewish, didn't you?
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, but no. So it's like...
Because I know that the JCC is a Jewish community center.
So I actually did have no agenda. Like when I would go do these shows, I literally was just going to make people laugh and kind of talk about the differences. It was much more national differences, like talking about the different countries, than any kind of like religious belief or political belief. But through the organization, I went to India, Cuba, Russia, Latvia.
Cuba.
Yeah, and like I went on a 9-day trip to India, and it's like it wasn't white Jews who happen to live in India. It was like Indians who are Jewish, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's nice too that you're learning a different culture, but you have the religion to connect you.
Yeah.
Especially if you're white and they're, a white Jew, they're Indian.
Yeah, and it was also interesting just to see like, in certain ways, Jews are all the same no matter where you go, and in certain ways, it's like couldn't be more different.
Yeah, and that's, you're going as Jewish, but it's all people in general.
Right, and so it was a nice learning experience. But say all that to say, I've been very fortunate in my travels, but have never been to Greece, and I'm looking forward to seeing Athens.
Have you ever done Sunnyvale, California? Rooster Teeth?
Yeah. No, but I love the name of that. That's one of the like... That's a classic comedy club name to me. Like,
it's unbelievable. They even have like in their advertisements like funny name or like like
funny name, serious comedy.
Yeah, something like that. But it was that town is such an eclectic group of people. Sunnyvale. You wouldn't think so. But because of the tech industry, it brings in people from all over. It's one of the only clubs I've ever done that you were like, this audience, you're playing to like 5 different audiences. So like, it's what?
It's a little bit of everyone.
Yeah, and it's like there were times when like getting everyone on the same page. There were
Yeah.
times that they would turn on things. Some people like, why did they go? And then you're just like, getting a read for that room. It wasn't until like the third show. I was like, all right, I get what's going on here. Whereas you go to any other town, it's like, you're going to get a microcosm of everyone.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting how the dynamic of comedy and comedy audience has changed over the years and what you're trained to do. Because, like, I came up mostly in the black scene in Atlanta.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about you and black culture.
Yeah, well, so sure, we can jump into that. But I came up in that scene and also was just like a huge pothead at the time. So like when I started comedy, my ideal audiences were high crowds or black crowds.
Yeah.
And maybe 2 months ago in New York, my friend asked me to do like a dispensary show. And I thought I was going to walk into like 10 stoners who were just kind of there. I walk in, it's like an Apple store now. It's like 150 people, and it was probably 90% black, all high out of their mind. So like, whereas when I first started comedy, you couldn't have painted a better gig for me. Like an all high black crowd, where do I sign on the dotted line? I had to work so fucking hard. Like it was just a different muscle that I had stopped working, and like going and doing a high black crowd was suddenly so much more difficult than just a standard gig.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, just in general, I just think like high crowds or drunk crowds.
Yeah.
Imagine just doing a drunk bar.
It was much more about them being high than like, because I still do a lot of black rooms or have no problem with any kind of audience. But yeah, like even when I go back and do shows in Denver and it's just a high crowd, they're fun. But yeah, it's like there's a delay on the laughter and the thought process when people are stoned out of their mind.
Yeah, dude. How funny is that it's like a whole city now versus like that's a dispensary, it going in.
You know what's interesting though, because I know you're a foodie. Denver, I have to say, their late night food culture sucks. And for like a city so built around weed culture now, the fact that there's not like a 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. food culture specifically for high people, someone's missing out on a huge opportunity. Because like after our wedding, I tried to like order 20 pizzas for the room, like people coming back to party the suite, and it took us so long to find a pizzeria that was open to deliver after midnight in Denver, and I couldn't believe it.
Huh. You know what's funny? I remember the last time I was in Minneapolis doing shows, I was like done. It was like 11:40 or 11:30, and I'm like, man, I just want a good meal. And I found this restaurant, and they were open till like 1 a.m, and it was like, like the Spotted Pig in New York, but it was there. Like, it was unbelievable. I'm like, I can't believe this is Minneapolis that I can go out and get this like dope meal at this late, So to not be able to get pizza is like,
I was shocked.
Was it good pizza when you finally got it?
Domino's.
Dude,
I'll let you answer that question.
I'm gonna tell you straight up, I love Domino's.
Oh,
I love it.
Pizza Hut's still my number one.
All right, well, see, that's just but what I'm saying is, my point being, is that people will dump on like Domino's or Pizza Hut or something like that, and you're like, have you tried it? There's a reason it's still in business, not because they were delivering 2 for $5.99. I love a Domino's pizza.
Yeah, I don't love the pizza, but I will say it's accessible.
And their wings are unbelievable.
They're still in the game because when there were no other pizzerias around, they were willing to deliver to.
There was no Pizza Hut available to you back then.
No.
All right, well, let's see what I'm saying.
You think I would have fucking ordered Domino's if Pizza Hut was delivering? Come on.
So let me ask you. So why was it that like because dude, you're white as fuck, you know what I mean? But even when I met you, what makes you feel like you gravitated towards black culture, or you became a part of black culture, or like were accepted into that group? Was it because you were traveling? I mean, I just feel like
no. I mean, it was a mix of a variety of things. Like, oddly enough, even in my very Jewish upbringing, my parents were always a big fan of black culture artistically. Like a lot of the music we listened to, a lot of the shows we watched, the movies we consumed were black artists who were celebrated. I also think growing up in the early 90s, like that was still a time when there were still a lot of parallels between the Jewish and black story. Like, it's kind of a shame to me that the communities don't seem to be as close now as they used to be. But like, growing up in Jewish day school, like the idea of the Holocaust, the only thing that felt comparable to something people had gone through was slavery and black people. So like I always felt a kinship. Basically, even though I was always very aware of the fact that my skin is white and I would never say I'm not a white man, I didn't grow up feeling like a white person, because to me white was Gentile. Like you were a white guy and I was Jewish, and there was a clear divide between that. And so the culture I felt more associated to, if it wasn't Jewish, was black culture. Like black people felt like they had more in common to Jews than just white Gentiles. So I think there was a cultural comfort level mixed with an appreciation for the art. I'm a huge sports fan. All the best athletes growing up that I love were black people. So like I just grew up kind of appreciating and idolizing a lot of the culture. And then when I finally left Jewish day school, I went to a predominantly black high school, and I played on the basketball team. And like my first group of friends in high school, when I finally met non-Jewish kids, were black kids. And then I went to college in Atlanta, and even though I went to Emory, Atlanta is a very black culture city. And so it was like it was always a natural fit where I never felt like I was trying too hard, but I was always just very accepted by the black people around me. And it was partly an appreciation of their culture and like similar interests, and partly just like what you're around becomes what you gravitate towards. But it was for no real reason. Like I can't put my finger on one thing, but like I've always just enjoyed being around black people, and they've always seemingly enjoyed having me around.
Yeah, well, I mean, who doesn't like being around black people? They're like the greatest people on the planet. But you say, because this is another thing I always appreciated about when I got around Jewish people, was that they just seemed always more accepting and more like what's that word? Of every culture. They just seemed like whatever. They didn't care. Like, because you hear a lot of negative stuff about Judaism when you're growing up in an all-white part of...
Oh, do you?
You do. Did I tell you I golfed one time with my buddy who's Palestinian with a Holocaust survivor? And the guy opened our round. When he met us, he goes, "Are you Jewish?" And I go, "No, I'm not." And he goes, "I'm a buddy." He goes, "Are you Jewish?" And he goes, "Yeah." But he was Palestinian.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Why'd you say yeah?" And he goes, "Because I just, it's going to be a lot easier to golf this round if he thinks I'm Jewish." And I was like, "All right." Cut to the fourth hole. I'm walking up one side of the fairway. And he was there with his son, who was like, in his 70s. And they're walking up the middle, and my buddy's going left, and I'm on the right. And he goes, "Yeah, well, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about." I'm like, "Oh, God, here we go." And I get up to the next tee box, and we're waiting for those guys. I go, "What's going on?" He goes, "This guy's racist towards Palestinians, dude." I go, "Of course he is. He thinks you're Jewish. What do you think? You're around Palestinians, you're talking shit. Everyone's talking shit about other people when they're just in their own group, dude." And he goes, "I don't know, man." And I was like, "Dude, he's a Holocaust survivor. Would you tone it down?" And it turned into this whole thing. But every time I've ever been around in Jewish group, I've never heard anything. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just always seemed like a very accepting group.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people in general have shortcomings, and Jews, like certainly the Israel-Palestinian conflict is a blind spot in a lot of Jewish people's minds. But I can say this openly, like it's not a conflict I'm going to dive into, but all the Palestinian people that I've ever met, and certainly the Palestinian comedians I know, I've always been friends with and have had a lovely time with. So well,
that's what my buddy says, who's Palestinian. He goes, it's the older generation that's the problem.
There's absolutely a generational divide, especially in American Jews, in terms of like I think there are some young liberals in America who are slightly too anti-Israel because they don't understand the history behind some of the things that Israel does. But I also think there's an older section of Jewish Americans who Israel can do no wrong, and you can't criticize Israel at all, and I don't agree with that faction either. Like, obviously there's a nuanced gray area that most people aren't able to see the other side on. But I see problems with both approaches.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you can't just be diehard.
And everyone knows that I came on the Thruline to do two things: promote my album and talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Which I'm glad, because I'd like to get into it a little further. Tell me about Maisel. What's going on next? Are you writing right now?
We just finished season 3. I will say I truly believe it's the best season we have coming out.
Jesus, that's high praise. Can you say, I
can't give you any spoiler alerts.
I wouldn't ask for them.
It comes out December 6th on Amazon Prime.
I mean, dude, you can't go to Whole Foods without getting bombarded by Miss Maisel.
I know it's one of those things. Like, we were in New York when there was supposedly this Maisel Day that like turned LA upside down, offering like 20-cent gas, and police need to intervene and shit like that. And I was getting texts from friends like people were pissed off at us and at the show like we had anything to do with it. I was like, dude, you're talking about Jeff Bezos and like marketing forces that are so beyond me eating a pack of Cheez-Its in the writer's room trying to figure out what Midge does in episode 307.
Yeah, totally.
But great show to be involved in, obviously.
Yeah, it's awesome. And
what questions you got?
I mean, like, what's that experience like? I mean, you had written on one show before that, right?
It could not,
and it wasn't even a scripted show.
Yeah, it was comedy.
It wasn't even good.
Wasn't even. Oh, someone's mad the booking department never reached out to Jay Larson.
No, that's.
My only writing experience before Maisel was on a show called Comedy Knockout on True TV. So yes, I really lucked out in the job where honestly it was one of Amy Sherman Palladino and Dan Palladino, the show's creators. Going into season 1, they knew they wanted to have a few comedians in the room to just help with comedy consulting, making sure the stand-up felt authentic, and not even about the joke so much as like, what does it feel like when she bombs? What does it feel like when she does well? What are the frustrations of it? And so they saw I had a half-hour stand-up special on Comedy Central that had recently come out, and my agent sent them that, and they liked my comedy enough to meet with me, and they sent me the script. And I fell in love with the script, obviously, and we went, and honestly, we just talked for 2 hours. Like, I went on the interview, and we just hit it off. And it's like, prior to this show, I had submitted for maybe 20 or 30, no exaggeration, writing jobs with writing samples and sending in scripts or sending in packets. Never got past the second round. The job that literally changed my life and is an award-winning show, I never even submitted a writing sample for. It was totally. I went in, met with the show creators. Because half the thing is when you write for a show, you have to spend hours on hours in the room with people. So half the battle is like, can I stand being around this person more than I'm going to be around my family?
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful every day. They took a chance on me. One of the things that they liked about it, though, was my varied background. Because one of the things we talked about in the interview process is I do regular stand-up. I do college stand-up. I came up in the black scene. I have a separate hour for Jews. And they liked the idea that I could be informed in writing for a comedian who may have to entertain various types of circles.
Yeah.
So
and
that gave me a leg up.
And it gave you your first acting role, which...
Can we just say hit it out of the park? It was so bad. I'm such a bad actor.
No, you say that, but you remember, what did you tell me about? Do you remember what you told me, what you were thinking when you were doing it?
No, what?
You said to me, you're like, I didn't realize, you said something along these lines, that you didn't realize when you're not in the scene, you still have to be acting.
Yes. My biggest issue is reacting or not. Yeah. Exactly. Because I didn't know I was going to be on camera for so much of my scene when it wasn't my line. And there's literally like, first of all, Rachel Brosnahan is in front of me, so no one should be looking at me during the scene.
And
anyway.
all I was doing was like, well, all right, Noah.
But I literally, there was like a minute of dead air where I'm just in the back like this. And I was mortified.
And so what, you don't like acting at all?
Well, it's not that I don't like acting at all, but it's not a passion of mine. It's not like what I'm working towards. I love stand-up. I love writing. If someone had a project that they wanted me to act in based on who I am and they think a character would like be natural for me to be, but as far as honing the skill of acting and taking on a character outside of myself, that's not where I'm interested in spending my time getting better at.
Yeah. No, I hear that. You have to have focus.
But honestly, the whole reason they gave me the role, aside from the fact that I played a comedian, they wanted someone who could go up and comfortably tell jokes, it was kind of an inside joke. Amy Sherman Palladino knows that I hate not having a beard. She knows that I hate my unshaven face. And the comedians in the late 50s didn't have beards. And so she basically cast me to fuck with me. It was like an inside joke in the writer's room where they basically gave me the job just to force me to shave the beard and make me hate my face on TV.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's the kind of shit you need. That's what keeps morale up in the writer's room and keeps a storyline for like 8 weeks.
But no, I have learned so much from the process. And like one analogy that I love to give when people ask me what it's like working on the show or like how it's affected my career, the Palladino, like the Maisel writer's room doesn't operate like most writer's rooms from what I understand, where it's like everyone has one show that they're going to write a script and it's kind of like everyone's pitching ideas at the chalkboard. It's like Dan and Amy are such bosses in the industry. They're legendary TV writers, and they know exactly what they want
Where'd
to
they come
do.
from? Tell people where they came from.
Gilmore Girls. Dan show ran Family Guy for a while. They both wrote on the original Roseanne back in the 80s. They're people who have been writing for TV for almost as long as I've been alive. And so they have such a vision for what they want that it's not about like. So the analogy I like to give is Michael Jordan with the Bulls, right? Like Steve Kerr didn't need to be Michael Jordan. He just needed to hit the shot when Michael Jordan passed it to him with 3 seconds left. The Paladinos in the writer's room, they're Jordan, and they don't need me to go score 20 points a game. They just need me to hit the shot when they pass me the ball.
Yeah.
And then as a result, what is Steve Kerr doing now? He took all the knowledge he learned under Jordan. He was coaching the Warriors, which went on to be their dynasty. So, like, I'm making sure I hit the open jumper when they pass me the ball, and I'm soaking up all the knowledge so that one day I can go be the Steve Kerr of a new organization and take everything I learned from them and start my own dynasty.
Yeah, take over the world.
Why not?
Well, let's see how the album is first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. White Men Can't Joke is the first step on the ladder of world domination.
What was your first album called?
Blunt.
So
it's still very much Weedhead Noah.
Yeah. So go get White Men Can't Joke. And if you love it, then get Blunt.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to see any residual effects from that.
No.
Financially speaking, usually in that first album. You heard about Prince. Fucking think about how Noah got hosed. Noah G Comedy?
At Noah G Comedy, yeah.
Well, thanks, buddy. It's always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
You know what I mean? Anytime you're at a bris, you can always pop by after.
Right on. I'm on the west side. Why not?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's great to see you. Great to see you doing well.
And congrats on the wedding. And I can't wait to hear. There's going to be some backlash from the open thing, but whatever. That's all part of it.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Since you're so close with all the numerous guys that obviously we're having so much fun, just tell them to back off. Since we're nearly married.
And I'll get some insights from them of what she likes.
Sure, and then let me know because clearly.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.